Okay guys, we are going to continue our lesson from yesterday, and we got the basics of a 2-point street corner done. So now we're going to do some like details and stuff to make it look a little bit more realistic. So we'll go ahead and start with our sidewalk, because I feel like that is the thing that trips students up the most. And I'm going to go ahead and I've got my sidewalk here and here. I've got one here as well as here. I think, though, to show you how you can do this one time on both sides, I'm going to go ahead and add one more right here. So I'm going to do that by lining my ruler up with my vanishing point. And I'm going to try to make it appear. I know it's going to be wider here than it is here because it's closer to us. So I'm going to just try to make it look proportional and accurate as best as I can on my spacing. And then I'm going to bring that here. Okay. Now I am going to on these little drop downs. I guess you don't necessarily have to, but you could take it the extra step and have like these little vertical lines here as well. I really like that, so I'm going to probably add that on some of them, closest to me anyways. The ones that get a little farther back may not be necessary, and honestly, you probably don't have to, because you would probably come in and sort of shade this little drop down anyway, so may not be necessary. However, we are going to learn how to do these lines throughout, so that it really does make it appear a little bit more realistic. Now yesterday, you could kind of see where I had erased, when I had said a lot of people go back and kind of do these slanted lines. I'll kind of sketch them back in. They'll go back and just kind of guess on these lines, and they wind up looking sloped because it's not a vertical line and it's not going to one of your vanishing points. So really, in a 2-point perspective, it has to be either vertical or line up to a vanishing point. There's no other lines other than your horizon line in there. So these lines that you're just guessing on are wrong, and they look sloped, and it looks like if anybody were to walk along that sidewalk, they'd slide off into the street, okay? If you were to turn them the other way, like that, sloped down, then it looks like they might slide into the building. So it is important that you pay attention and you utilize the correct vanishing point, okay? So on this side, usually the rule of thumb is that if whatever's on the right side of the building goes to the right vanishing point, whatever's on the left side goes to the left vanishing point. This is not going to be true for the sidewalk because it's an object laying flat on the ground. It's not standing. So all of your sidewalk lines on this side is going to go to the opposite vanishing point, and same thing for here. They're going to go to the opposite vanishing point. So what I would suggest you do is we're going to kind of use that corner spacing on those pieces to kind of gauge the next space. And as things get closer to your vanishing point, they should slowly start to get smaller and closer together. So by lining my vanishing point up one time and just shifting it back, I can get both lines off of one ruler, like spacing. I don't have to go back and do one side and then go back and do the other side. You can just do them both at the same time, and the spacing will appear correct. So we're just going to kind of continue that back a little ways. Really, you want to at least do your sidewalk lines until you are done with your buildings. So I'm going to just continue this for a little bit. And just let them gradually get closer together. Some of them might appear the same size for a little bit, and that's okay. Just your end goal is for spacing to get tinier. Okay. For the sake of the lesson, I'm going to just call that good so that we can do other things. So on this side, we're going to go ahead and do some going this way. Now, I'm not going to worry about doing this side too because I've showed you how to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and do some on this side just so that you can also see, you know, your alignment. I've got this is where the ruler, clear ruler comes really handy. So I could go up and do it like this if you want. For me, this is a little bit easier because I'm a lefty. So I'm going to go up and kind of guess my spacing here. But I'm always making sure that my lines are lined up with my vanishing point, my opposite vanishing point. Okay, and again, for sake of time, I'm not going to... You would, again, for your project, you're going to want to at least carry this until your buildings end. But for the sake of the lesson and time, I'm going to just call that good. So you could go back here and do like little vertical lines too. If you choose to do that, do it with your ruler so that you're not guessing on that. But that's really, like I kind of said here, maybe not necessary because you'll probably need to go back and sort of shade in that one curve. Of course, it depends on where your light source is coming from. So by putting my shadow on that side of my curb, I've determined that my light source is coming from this side of the picture. Okay, because this side would not be shaded in. So, anyways, that is how you do your sidewalk and a curb. Finish that out. Again, just make sure you take your time on it. Don't rush it. That's one of those little things that can really make or break a really good piece. So, all right, so windows and doors, this is the easier stuff. So each window or each building you do is going to have like a doorway to it, unless it's one of these back here that we can't see the bottom. So we can see the bottom of all these. So your pedestrians need a way to get into your buildings. So I would go ahead and I'm going to show you how to find the center of a building because I want, say, this door, this entryway to be centered inside my building. So you can't really guess on the center. You've got both of these sides angled away from you, turned away from you. So therefore, trying to eyeball where your center is not going to pan out well for you. So the way you do that, just like when we did our practice worksheet for the house or the barn, they did this X. And this is I'm just going to do this really light because I'm not going to keep this X. I just am going to do this line from corner to corner to find out exactly where the middle of my building is since it's turned away from me. So by doing that, that gives me this is the center of this building. Okay? So from here, I'm going to do a vertical line because I'm not going to do it all the way down. But I'm gonna have a double door, so that will be the center of my double door right there. Okay. I might keep that because I might use that later to help me place a billboard or something. So I'm not going to get rid of that just yet. So I'm going to make this a really large double door. And so what I'm going to do. Maybe it's a grocery store because I feel like they have or a department store. I feel like they've got really large double doors. So what I'm going to do to also keep my spacing on since the side's going to be closer to me and the side's going to be farther away, I'm going to utilize that X a little bit more. And I'm going to do the top of my door to fit in between those two lines. So this top of my door is going to go to my right vanishing point because it's on the right side of my building. Okay. So there I'm going to put a vertical line there. And I'll do a vertical line here. Again, every time I do a vertical line, I check my ruler, make sure it's lined up with my paper. So there's my double door. Now I could give this an archway as well if I wanted to, give it a little bit more decoration, or maybe I could have done, had I thought about it out earlier, I could have done like an awning, which I still could do an awning, but you know how like hotels, you have a spot where you could like pull under and do a driveway to drop off, and it's under awning. If you plan it out, maybe set this building a little farther back from the street, you could probably do something like that. But I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do archway. So if you want to just do a basic door, that's a good way to do that. Since I still have this X here, I can utilize the middle of that X again, and I'm going to extend up this vertical line just a little bit higher so that I know, like, I'll take it just as high as I want my arch to be. Or you could even do this for a point. That's kind of when we did our house, we used that to help us determine the peak of our roof. So for here, I'm going to determine where my arch is. Now I have to freehand. Any curved lines, you have to freehand. So I'm going to try to make this match it or look as accurate as I can on both sides. So there, I've got a little archway, and if I can fancy this up even more if I want to by doing, you know, some little designs here. Now what I'm doing for this, I'm going through the corner of my door, and then I could just kind of, from there I probably just would have to kind of guess on my spacing if I wanted to make it fancy. You don't have to make it fancy, you don't even have to do an archway. I'm just showing you possibilities. Oops, there we go. Okay, so I've got my little fancy entrance to, maybe it's a hotel now. Maybe it's got glass doors. So I'm going to show you how it looks like for it to appear like it is a glass door, and you can kind of see the inside of the building slightly. So to do that, we're going to kind of do the same thing we did here, where we had at the bottom where it shows that we could kind of walk through the buildings. We have this bottom line that leads back into the alleyway. So we would do the same thing here. We would see this side of it. So maybe I have a little path like that, but maybe I could carry that all the way in so it looks like there's a whole wall right there. Or maybe I could pull up another line here for, oh, kind of, if you leave it like that, it looks like the door's kind of swinging to the inside to open. I could do, like, you could really just kind of build off of it and make your own thing. So maybe I bring out another line from that corner to make it look like there's a set in here. Yeah, I could erase this now if I wanted to. If I wanted to not make that a door and have, you see how it looks like maybe there's a little under walkway, kind of like how I was talking about earlier, a little porch, or not porch, but just a breezeway sort of into this building. So you can walk in, and then maybe your doors are set to the inside here a little bit. If you wanted to do that, I might be going farther into what you're, maybe you're not wanting to do something this intricate, but at least you'd know how to. So if I want to do maybe push back my double doors under this, I could go back here and do another X very lightly. Okay, because I'm going to erase that. That gives me the center of that inside opening, and I can make my doors right there. Okay, so I'm going to call that good as far as how to show you how to do a set of doors, an archway, how to make it look like it's kind of cut in or under. Let's see, I could still leave that little fancy thing, but I'm going to go ahead now and erase this X. I'll go ahead and erase it, just so you get the full picture. Okay, so there we have kind of a nice little awning. Now there's other ways to do this, or something similar to this. You might just have to kind of play around or find a visual example if you want something different. Usually, if you understand perspective and you had a visual example on how to do something, you can usually figure it out. Okay, I can usually figure out most stuff. I'm not going to say I can figure out every stuff, but I can figure out most stuff just because I understand the rules of perspective really well. So maybe each building also like I won't have to put a door over here because I've already got a door over here. But like these two buildings would need a door. These buildings would also need a door so that their pedestrians could get in. So I'm going to just go ahead and slap some of those in real fast. And doors aren't always centered in the building. You know, some are set off more to one side because maybe there's a display window in it. So I'm going to just, I've got my door here. This is like this line of my door. I'm going to take the top of my door, since this is the right side of this building. I'm going to take the top of my door to the right vanishing point, and then I'm going to do another vertical line to bring it down. Okay. And then same thing over here. I'm going to do, again, if you want to find the center of your buildings, you got to do that little X from corner to corner. Okay. And I got one more. So again, my doors, as they get closer to that vanishing point, they also too are going to feel a little bit more narrow, just like my buildings do. Maybe I make this door have a little bit more width. Now make sure your vertical lines on your doors are vertical, because then they'll start looking sloped. Okay, so those all have doors. These two on this side, since they're on the left side of each building, the top will go to the left vanishing point. Okay. And these are things you're going to have to do in your project. All right. So now's the time to practice them. Okay. All right, so I've got windows and doors on all my I've got doors on all my buildings. So now we need like signs or windows. You don't have to have both, but you need to have one or the other on all of your buildings, okay? So let's say, since I've got a door on this side, I should probably put a sign by that entryway. All right, so I'm going to make, you could have kept that X in there and sort of helped you place it, but not necessary. So I'm going to make a vertical line there. And then I'm going to take the top and bottom of this since this is on the right side of my building, so the top and bottom of my sign are going to go to the right vanishing point. Okay, so it's going to be a big sign. And end it with a vertical line. Okay. So now if I'm going to do any signs, I am going to require, or you're going to have to put either a drawing of a picture or some words on there. They can't just be blank, okay? So if you do any letters, the tricky part about doing letters in two-point perspective is that, I'll kind of show you on this little piece here. Like say you have an E, okay, or a T, any of these lines that kind of cut at a horizontal angle, they need to go to whatever vanishing point side it's on. So if my vanishing point's over here, my E, like all these should angle to the vanishing point. Does that make sense?
Teachers, please find this in Ruston. I need seniors with the last name L to kind of take senior annual pictures at this time if you haven't already. And also, I need 9th through 11th graders who have not taken pictures or need to do retakes with the last name letter L through letter T to come to the Pioneer Center at this time. Thank you.
Okay. So your vertical lines, however, in your letters are going to stay vertical. So say I'm going to do the letter hotel or the word hotel. It wouldn't be a bad idea to just kind of put like a little baseline for where, and a top line for where, like how your height is going to go to kind of keep it all slanted, because it is easy to get that off. So I really just utilized the little bit of the horizon line that was still there. But having that guide there would also help. So, let's see, the cross part of my H is going to go to my vanishing point. Okay, now O's, rounded objects, are going to be more oval. Okay, so you're just going to have to freehand that. And then, let's see, I've got a T next. So I'm going to put, I don't know if I'll have enough room for the whole word, but we'll get at least most of it, and you'll get the point. So I've got top part of my T went to the vanishing point. My vertical lines are vertical. Okay, here comes my E. Now again, the spacing of them and the length of them will start to get a little bit tighter. So my back part of my E is vertical. That goes to my vanishing point. Vanishing point. Vanishing point. Okay. I don't really know if I'm going to have room for an L, so I'll make the sign a little bit longer, but I'll go ahead and finish my L and then adjust it. So vertical line for my L, and then I'm going to have a really short bottom part of my L since it's the farthest part away from me. You see how they're all kind of lined up and slanted away from us? Okay, so there's the end of my word, so I'll come back out here and extend my sign out a little bit. Okay. All right, so hotel, and then maybe there's a little pretty swirl or something here. I don't know. So if we want the sign to make it look like it's sticking off of the building as opposed to sitting flat on it, we would want to add, like, kind of box it out a little. So from this corner and this corner, we're actually, even though it's sitting on this side of our building, we're going to take just a little line to the opposite vanishing point. And this is the same rules you would follow if you were doing like a billboard. Okay, so this, I hope you can tell, I have it slanted up or slanted towards the right vanishing point. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing to the bottom. I'm sorry, to the left vanishing point. I'm going to do the same thing to the bottom. Okay, and then I just add it with a vertical line in between. And then it'll look, and make it as thick as you want it to appear. You probably don't want it too terribly thick. But then, if you have any hangover, you can erase that. Erase that. Okay? So now it looks like it's sitting off of the building. You would follow those same rules on your other buildings. Again, each one needs to have a window, door or sign, like door on all of them, or windows and sign. So I'm going to show you how to do some like skyscraper windows. So like maybe this building back here is an apartment complex or a business office. And it just has a bunch of windows. So what you would want to do in that case, it wouldn't be a bad idea to kind of measure out just the spacing of the floors so that they all look like they're even, you know, because that's how buildings are. Okay, so I've just measured out a few little guidelines, and on the left side of the building, I'm going to take them to the left vanishing point. And I'm just going to take each story to that vanishing point that I can see. There we go. Okay, and then I'm going to do the opposite this way. So I'm going to use the same measurements I just used for that side, and I'm going to see how they meet up in the corner there. Okay. And you would want to do that until you don't see any more of the stories. Does that make sense? So now the rest are just behind that building. So if you wanted to make those look like they were glass reflecting, you would, or you could even come down in here and add like another vertical line if you wanted. But let's see, this side of my building, based off of how I shaded my curve, this side would be in shadow. And really, that's kind of how you would probably need to do if you're going to do a much better job. But depending on your light source, you should have one side of your buildings darker than the other. Okay? And for the sake of time, I'm not going to blend it, but you would blend it, make it look all nice. Okay? For this side, if you wanted to look like the light was reflecting, you can do, let's say I'll show you. You could do like just these little lines like that, say that's a window. I don't know if you would want to do it for each row or just across the whole thing. Yeah, you could probably just kind of do it across the whole thing, sort of like that. That doesn't look bad. So really, for anything you want to look glass, I would probably put, those are probably the only other type of lines that you draw that don't go to a vanishing point. So, let's see what else we could add. I want you to, as far as the basics of the buildings, that's what you would do. If you want to turn this into bricks, you would start bricks the same way by measuring it out. But then when you go, I'll show you on another piece of paper. So you've got your building here. You measure it out. You do your lines. But when you go through, you would still do vertical lines, but you just skip every other one. Does that make sense? But you have to make sure you do that vertically with your paper, because then if they start to curve, say you have and they start to do this, your building is going to look warped, okay? So make sure those lines are vertical with your paper, but you would start it the same way there, okay? Let's see, on the opposite side, you will need to do something on, like if you have a bunch of space. If you don't have a bunch of space, you probably not that big of a deal, but if you do have a bunch of space, you're going to have to figure out something to do here. So maybe you do a parking lot, maybe you do a little taco stand or a flower stand, like little carts or something, which you would all start that the same way as you would, a building. So let's say we have, let's see, I've never tried doing a taco stand or a flower stand. So let's see. We would have, say, the top of the stand here. And he would probably be set off of the sidewalk a little bit, so he's not in the way of the pedestrians. So I'm going to start that back a little bit. I started with the top and bottom of my box instead of the vertical lines, just so because I'm thinking it through. And it's okay to do things out of order. As long as you still get the same steps in there, it doesn't matter. So that would be like the front of his stand, and then we would probably see, maybe it's a hot dog stand. Do that. You could actually turn that into a dumpster too if you wanted to. Okay, so that'd be the back of the stand. And then we would also see this little side here that cuts to the vanishing point. Okay. So I could do, maybe I have the word flowers on here. Remember following, too big. But following the same rules I did when I did the hotel, for the sake of time, I'm gonna just go a little faster. Flower booth. I don't know. Or stand, I guess would have been better. Flower stand. But when you start decorating and adding details to your, maybe he's got a little umbrella up here for some shade. You could start, if you wanted to make a haunted town, you could give it a theme. Maybe you have a futuristic town. Maybe you have an alien invasion happening, or King Kong or Godzilla's attacking. You could get creative with it. I'm going to see if I can get an umbrella. Maybe it's not umbrella. Maybe it's just a sunshade kind of thing. So that would start right up there. So I'm doing this so that they look like they're starting at the same point. You know what I mean? Yeah, there we go. Maybe it's a lemonade stand or a kissing booth. I don't know. Get creative. So if I did like a shade, I'd probably, I need to see the top of that too. So that'd be the bottom. This would probably need to have just a slope like a roof. So I'm going to try to match that slope. Since this is it actually lines up with my vanishing point, did not plan that. But because I want this to not really be a square, I want it to be like a peaked roof, like a house. Let's see. That would probably be pretty narrow, probably. And the bottom of it, ooh, that's probably going to be an issue. The bottom of it would run along to my vanishing point. But you can build it out a little bit different, too. It's not a square top, so no, that doesn't look right. That doesn't look right. The bottom of it would actually go to the vanishing point. So we'll just make it thick so it looks like that doesn't look right. I'm glad you guys are getting to kind of see me, because I have to think through things too to figure it out. And again, honestly, if you just start with a box and you just start adding the components to it like you're building it in person almost. You could build a bench, But, all right, so maybe there's some cute little flower pots, tucked away for the flower stand to sell. And there's probably some flowers up here too. So, you could put your words up there, on there. Anyways, that's kind of like just one idea. I've never done one of those before, so I figured I'd give it a go. Let's say behind it is a parking lot. I'll just kind of show you how you could do parking spots. So parking spots is going to follow the same rules as your sidewalk would. They're going to line up to the opposite vanishing point. So maybe you have the little bumpers. Those would run this way. Okay. Or these are maybe the fronts of the parking spots, and then they'd square off to the opposite vanishing point. Okay, so there's some parking spots. If you wanted to do that's actually how you would do if you did the stripes in the road as well, that's how you would do that. Let's say I want to add the dividers in my parking spot too. So, I would go probably out to where I ended. Like probably make those a little thick too. I won't do them on all of them. I'm just going to show you. So we would probably do something similar to this. So those are going to your opposite vanishing point, but you would want to end it. I'm going to shorten it up a little bit. And then you would end it going to this vanishing point. That makes sense. So the top and bottom lengthwise of your spots also need to kind of angle towards your vanishing point. So you could do that. There's other ways to do parking spots too, but you do have to keep your vanishing points in mind as you do it. Over here, you could do just some trees. You know, I like to do these little cypress trees. I think they're a lot easier to do than like the trees that have a trunk and all that. But those are easy too. You'll just also need to keep in mind, you might keep them all sort of lined up towards the vanishing point, and they'll slowly get a little bit smaller as you go. And they need to be vertical too. They grow vertical. Because if you draw them like this, they're going to look like they're tipping over. You know what I mean? You see the difference there. Maybe you do a fence. You would kind of follow the same rules. You would do these vertical lines, and at the top that all lines up to your vanishing point. So just, you know, use your space well, decorate it, make it creative. Creativity is part of your grade. If you want me to show you how to do something that is not in this lesson, just holler at me and I would be happy to show you. So anyways, make sure you get this done, and we will start on our project pretty soon. So pretty much as soon as we get through this, the next thing we're going to do is start on the project. So be thinking about maybe what kind of city you want to do. If you want to do an Old West city, you wouldn't do that until you get all your basics done. Any kind of decorations you add would be after you get the bulk of just the outlines done, and then you would go in, like when I started to decorate the hotel and the flower stand, all that, I would make my adjustments to my buildings how I needed to. Maybe I want to make the doors a saloon door, or maybe I want to make a little Paris looking coffee shop. You know what I mean? So that kind of stuff is done after you get the base shapes in. So again, if you guys have any questions or need me to show you something else, just holler at me.